Here we go. So our first review of the day is going to be for the film Late Night with the Devil. Late Night with the Devil stars David Dastmalchian. David Dastmalchian, you might have seen him before, might have seen his face, maybe don't know his name, but he's appeared in a variety of different things. Usually, if there's a large ensemble cast, usually David Dastmalchian is a part of it. And things like the Suicide Squad, things like Oppenheimer, things like The Dark Knight. He's been in kind of smaller roles there and he's kind of worked his way up, and now it's kind of one of the few times I've actually seen him take on a leading role in something. And here he plays a character by the name of Jack Delroy. Here he plays a late night TV host here, and this is set in the '70s. You know, very much of that era of '70s TV hosts. People like Johnny Carson and people they reference here. He's kind of competing against them, and he's in the battle for the ratings here. Started off really hot, really soaring, but now he's kind of cooled off. Some personal tragedies have hit his life,
Mhm.
and his show just isn't what it used to be. He's trying to, raise those viewings by doing all these kind of shock type things here. And one of those include inviting the literal devil onto his show and giving them an interview. You know what I mean? And the devil in the form of this little girl here who is possessed, possibly by the devil.
Yeah,
Um,
baboon or something. It was a certain devil name to start with a B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, certain devil there. And yeah, I mean, you see kind of, is it real? Isn't it real? You have some person who's also a skeptic there of kind of what's going on. And this is, as I mentioned
Mhm.
before, a person, a little girl possessed by the devil. I mean, another movie, exorcism movie, which I feel like last year we got a lot of exorcism movies. There was Talk
Mm.
to Me, there was Exorcist Believer, there was Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah.
And I think I'm forgetting another one. But seemed like there was.
Uh, Russell Crowe movie where he was on
Oh,
the
yes, The Pope's
moped,
Exorcist. Yeah, The Pope's Exorcist, yeah.
where he fought the devil. I presume.
Yeah, he kicked the devil's ass, you know what I mean? Yeah, you had that, going on here. Yeah, The Pope's Exorcist. Thank you, Mike.
Mhm.
So yeah, with those kind of variety of different Exorcist movies, you had something like Talk to Me, which was fresh. It, felt
Yeah.
fresh. It's like, okay, you still can do something with the exorcism genre and make it still good. Then you also had something like Exorcist Believer, where you saw how shitty it could be. And then you saw something like The Pope's Exorcist. It's like, okay, I mean, this is using all the familiar tropes, but still kind of fun in the way that it's kind of showing and the way Russell Crowe's doing this performance. And then, as you mentioned, with Evil Dead Rise, it's like, okay, it's Evil Dead again, but in a new type of setting, which still was pretty fun. And you know what I mean, in an apartment type setting, I kind of like that quite a bit. And the physical performance as well
Yeah.
from the lead actress as the Deadite was really good, and the whole family aspect too. So you still can do something with the exorcism genre there and make it kind of good and make it fun. I think that, you had movies there that showed that as much as there were kind of mediocre ones there last year. This one I think is on the par with something like that as far as like making it fresh, making it
Mhm.
kind of original again, the exorcism genre, and putting a good spin on it in a way. I'm gonna pass it around, get you guys' thoughts on this. Dusk, what do you think about Late Night with the Devil?
I think all the performances are strong. I think they do a really good job with the audio to make
Yeah.
it sound from that era, and that's very important. I forget who quotes it, but about 80% of horror is pretty much audio. You
That
have to get
was
that right.
I know this. This was actually Rob Zombie.
Okay.
No, yeah, Rob Zombie or Jordan Peele. But they both said something very similar along those lines.
Yeah, there are many scenes that if you just mute it, even when it comes to video games, especially sound design is incredibly important. And yeah, they did a really good job to convince you that this was recorded on older equipment. You can feel that static, you feel that the distance between the microphones and the way they did it, which is done by processing, but they did a good job. The premise is also interesting, just from the very notion that they're doing this on a live broadcast. And of course, things are going to go bad, but you're kind of curious to see, well, how bad is it going to go? And it goes pretty bad. Uh, the effects, I think, are solid and pretty somewhat believable. There are a couple moments where I'm like, nah, you're kind of pushing it. But I think for the most part, especially for the budget they had and what they were going for, I think they hit the mark most times than not. I did feel a lot of good tension in the air, and I think they did a lot of the creepiness of just the whole event really well. I think for the most part, and it just only escalates more and more. The hardest thing for a bottleneck movie is to kind of keep the tension still going, and I think they were able to find ways to keep it going while still introducing moments of, okay, we got to kind of like, oh, this is during commercial break, or oh, that we're just informed this other character something happened here, but never without stepping fully out of the bottleneck. And I think that did help it out for the most part.
Hmm. Yeah. What about you, Mike?
I am almost split on this movie. I think it's might be because I went into it with the opposite attitude I went into Talk to Me. Talk to Me, my expectations were relatively low. I just had a free ticket, basically. And I saw that, and this movie, I heard about the premise, and I love the premise of like a uh, basically a paranormal activity movie, but instead of like a found footage camera, like a found footage movie, but from the perspective of like a camera on set in like a 70s talk show host. That and like the fact that it took inspiration, the very opening took inspiration from that Japanese movie, The Death of American Civilization, Death of Western Civilization, where it opens up and it talks about all the horrors in the 70s and 80s and all this stuff of like Ed Kemper and like Charles Manson and like the various satanic cults that were going around. I was very on board for that, but it's like, to me, I think the strongest part is definitely its recreation of that era and the main lead's performance of just an incredible performance of a man just like slipping and dealing with fame. Uh, and like what the very simple metaphor of like what do you do to get the cost of fame. And I noticed a lot of the people from that era of like, obviously they name drop people like Johnny Carson, but there's also like the amazing Randy in the embodiment of that disprover of the supernatural. Uh but I think I was kind of expecting it to be more not of an exploitation, but feel like I was expecting to feel grosser watching this movie in a weird way. Which I don't think is really a criticism I've given the movie before. I do really like the main lead. I think they carry a lot of stuff pretty well. Uh, and I like a lot of the practical stuff they do use, which ironic given that this movie got in trouble for using AI. But stuff like when the girl is quote like possessed the first time and you see the hair in front of her, and you don't even like see her face. They just use her hair. You see like AI, uh, but and like how she just like lunges in certain scenes. Uh, that was good, and like the focus on like of course this devil in the foreground. It's just like I was expecting to kind of piece together all the stuff, but like for me, it never really came to like full fruition. And it kind of it abandoned its premise a bit by like the last 15 minutes, which kind of uh, made me turn on it slightly. I love the look of like how everyone looks like they're from there of the 70s of like sideburns and like cigarettes. And, but it's a movie I can see getting a cult following probably in the future. But for me, it just did not. I would not put it on the same level as Talk to Me, but I do hope it does give inspiration to more movies in the future to do different and more creative stuff with this element of horror. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. The two directors are here, so it's a directing team here. Cameron and Colin Careen's here, who did this. And they're both brothers, writing, directing duo here. They've done other things like 100 Bloody Acres. They did. I've never seen that. They also did Scare Campaign, which I have not seen. So yeah, I kind of feel a little bit like with Mike here. The movie has a very kind of documentary style of documenting this guy at first about Jack Delroy here and his kind of rise, which does a narration from Michael Ironside, who comes in as the narrator. Very good narrator, by the
Oh,
Hey
way.
yeah.
man, I'm happy to have him.
Dark Side.
Yeah,
Dark
Dark
Side.
Side there. It's always cool to see. Always good to hear Michael Ironside. He comes in narrating a lot of stuff. That's a a large portion of the beginning of it. I
Mhm.
was like, okay, when are we actually going to hear from more from the actual guy here and get to see more of his stuff? And then it is kind of a very much bottle film, and it only takes place on the studio, on the set there that you're going to see where he introduces things and sets everything up, and then brings in the guests, and very much that format, which I thought that was pretty good. Again, puts a nice fresh kind of spin on the exorcism genre. I mean, when's the last time you've seen an exorcism movie take place on a talk show?
Yeah.
That's kinda you know what I mean? It's kinda something fresh there for you, and David Dastmalchian, like I
Yeah.
said, been mostly I've seen him in,
Kills it.
as a supporting character, and I think he does a very good job here being the lead of
Mhm.
this movie, and showing off his skills there of, maybe getting some more
He
lead.
carries a lot of this movie, if I'm gonna
Yeah,
be
I would say
honest.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it either needs for me, this movie either needs to go, like, more violent and darker, more
Mhm.
exploitative, like, almost like how Talk to Me, like, very interestingly escalates and, like, you
Mhm.
get that scene where it's like, yeah, at first, it's like, yeah, it's kids being goofy, but then it's like, you get that yucky feeling in your tummy, and it's like, "Oh, no, what's going on here?" And then, like, just the I think it's because with my history with possession and exorcisms, the whole I've seen people act the possession thing 1,000 times before, and it just does not have the
Mhm.
same effect on me because I for years as a teenager, I worked in a haunted house, and I've seen dozens of theater kids do that, like,
Mhm.
possession performance, and it's just eye rolling to me at this point of like, oh, I'm doing the deep voice and like I'm crazy or like very high pitched. Here, it's like, oh, it started off fun, but like in Talk to Me, it becomes more of a drug thing and like a metaphor for that kind of stuff, and like just how it escalates in the sound design and just the look of everything and the rules in universe in like the horror movie. I'm not sure who said it. I think it was like Red Letter Media, but they talk about like how for a lot of horror movies like this, rules are very important. Uh like but in Late Night with the Devil, it just kind of feels somewhat generic devilish. It's like it's not even a unique devil like Hereditary, not Hereditary. No, Hereditary.
No, it is Hereditary.
Yeah, with Paimon
Mhm.
and stuff like that, or
Mm.
like there's an interesting cult. I think you either need to go more dark and violent, or you need to go like to the point where it almost has like a sense of humor about itself, like way
Mhm.
more like a Paul Verhoeven s kind of thing,
Mhm.
like
Mm.
where it's like maybe this is a world where the supernatural does exist, and they bring in a werewolf, and it's like the equivalent of like bringing like a chimpanzee on. It's like that's super dangerous. You shouldn't do that.
Mm.
It's wild up and it just like rips into the audience.
That'd be interesting, yeah, like, in
Mhm.
that kinda world, that'd be kinda interesting.
Mhm.
If I recall correctly, the devil or the demon in this is Abraxas, which is a
Abraxas, that's his
yeah,
name.
Abraxas, and he's an old school. He's from a
Jew,
Gnostic
yeah.
religion.
Mhm.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think the sound design they nailed, the set designs they did well, and yeah, the main characters carrying it. I think when it comes to the effects, when they're done fairly well. But
Mhm.
yeah, you are kind of waiting a lot of times to kind of see, okay, when's the shoe gonna drop?
Yeah.
This movie actually quite reminded me of another movie. I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but it's called WNUF Halloween Special. Came out
Mhm.
in 2013, and it's an interesting premise. It is a comedy horror analog where they made up their own made up their own TV commercials, and it's played in a way as if it was caught on VHS. This entire special, and then this horrible thing happens, and
Mhm.
it's as if you're just watching it through specifically until something happens, and little moments here and there of analog horror come in and out. And at first, it starts pretty slow, and then it kind of ramps up over time. And it was made for a very limited budget, but they were able to kind of nail that local television haunted house that then kind of evolves into something a little bit worse and
Mhm.
cutting to commercials and local community. So it kind of reminded me of that in a weird way. It reminded
Yeah.
me of that kind of movie.
I will
That
say
also
that no, go on.
this also has a kind of a cult following. Not many people talk about this one.
Mhm. I will say there is a I did really like the design of like the
Mm.
full when it's like revealed to actually be fully possessing the girl. That was very unique thing to see that I haven't seen in like at least live action, kind of like
Mhm.
this. It kind of reminds me of uh, a Korean movie, Gym Haunted Asylum. It's basically it's a bunch of like influencer kids in Korea
Mhm.
to a Japanese like a during World War II. Japanese, of course, invaded Korea, did like bunch of awful shit, but
Sure.
that it's like, oh, we're going into like the place where the Japanese like tortured Korean women and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
they go there and like it's everyone's got their own like basically a GoPro,
Mhm.
and it's like it switches in between them. It has a very creative demon. It gives a more like sense of like isolation.
Mhm.
I've never really got that with this.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, maybe if like maybe she is a child, it's like of course you don't want to be that mean to her, but maybe the
Mhm.
performance of the little girl was a bit different. Because here it just felt like a bit too like, yeah, okay, I get it. You're that kid at the haunted house. It's like tried to do the thing where you like sit in the corner and cry, and then you scream at the like. I get that. I've seen that 1,000 times. Do something else.
Yeah. Ingrid Torali is her name there. She plays there. What's her name in this? Lily, I think. Lily.
Lily, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
she doesn't have too many other credits outside of this. Yeah, this is it's a pretty bottleneck
yeah,
movie. What actors we do know that kind of come in and out of the movie are really the mainstays. They're really the ones kind of holding
yeah,
this up. And
yeah.
Jack, the guy playing Jack, just unrelenting, willing to just not just abandon the episode when time and time again people like this is
Mhm,
just getting bad. We need to
yeah.
go. We need to
I think
stop this.
yeah. Uh, yeah, I think you might have also you could have done like a thing of like a 70s like almost like play up the
Mm,
controversial aspect a lot more with Jack. Not even like he's a bad guy, but like he's into like weirder stuff, and like
mm,
he exploits people, which I feel like kind of gets dropped a bit with this.
yeah.
Because here he kind of feels like the victim at it, and like he is a victim, but like uh he kind of feels like a bit almost like a bit too much like your average horror protagonist in this kind of thing. Uh
what do you mean by that?
like he feels a bit too like it's pushed onto me, and like he kind of reacts like everyone else of like kind of the fear he has, and it's not like I almost wanted to see him go further with it. Like I get that he's not like a scummy person, but like what if he was like there's something a lot more like serious dangerous, like what if like the girl like actually bit a guy or something, and like he had
Mm,
to be rushed to the hospital. And that was another thing, when the other person passes away, Jack doesn't know about it, but the amazing Randy character does hear about it. Like I feel like Jack should have probably been the one to find this out and be like,
Well, he
fuck
does.
with he
He,
does.
he does find it out before the other guy.
yeah, he does.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
So the guy, he's not blameless. He does continue and escalate it, but
Mm.
yeah, I can see what you mean.
Like a Maury type. Like, what if he did something like
Mhm.
really weird? Like, where we got this girl who says she's possessed and stuff like that. And we
Yeah.
got a priest who's going to fight the devil out of her or something, something like that. Like,
Oh,
or
you want to go all the
I
way
want to go,
schlock.
yeah, or like I want borderline trash.
Okay.
uh,
Well, this
one
was
way.
trying to actually
Yeah.
be horror and not
Yeah.
block.
To me, it's too in between worlds for me, and
Mm,
it's not like a bad thing. It might just be my personal taste as well when it comes to
mhm.
horror. Uh,
Uh,
yeah. I
oh,
oop, go
oh,
on.
go ahead.
Well, have you heard of that new Shudder movie, A Violent Nature?
No,
Mm,
I have not.
No, it's like it's very reminiscent of like Friday the 13th or like Texas
Oh,
Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah.
I saw the trailer for that before
Mhm.
this movie. Yeah, when I was
Yeah.
watching it. Okay.
I'm actually very curious on that of just the filming of that, because it's like an amalgamation character of like all these horror icons who live in like the woods, but like let's just see it from their point of view. Uh Almost like a disturbed version of Hardcore Henry.
Yeah.
uh
So what would be your rating for Late Night with the Devil?
uh I would give it a probably a like a high stream it. When I
Okay.
say streaming, I don't mean like just skip it if it's in the theater. So like, no, like this is worth watching on a TV for me. Uh, it actually might be more effective given the documentary background with it and stuff like that, and like the night show aspect. But uh, maybe if it's a date movie, if you have like a free ticket, maybe a tune in. But you know,
Mm, okay. Dusk, what about you?
I'm gonna go with low tune in.
Okay.
I think it had just enough going for it that I think you can justify a movie ticket. Probably try to see it on a discount. Honestly, I saw it on a late at night, so that kind of helped as well. I think also the
Mm,
timing of when you see it really helps get you in the mood for this. But I think if you watched it on stream it, you would do just fine. But I think there's enough here that can justify a movie ticket.
Mm. I agree. I give it a little bit higher. I'd give it a kind of more stronger tune in,
mm,
a little bit more. I do kind of love the kind of again fresh kind of take on here that you have the setup of with this kind of genre, like I said, late night TV show host, 70s, trying to do things for ratings and kinda touched on that time, back then. Even now, you do have people who try to, up the bar as far as
yeah,
bringing on crazier and crazier guests and, what I mean, trying to fight for ratings, trying to fight for attention, trying to fight for that. And then, you see that this guy, David Dills mentioned is Delroy here, trying to really, this kinda is all he has left in a sense. So you see kind of the things that happen in his life. So he, really is desperately trying to fight for this show and especially he's trying to get to, I think, another network. He's trying to, have the network kind of go
yeah.
to another place. So the
He's
show
trying
goes
to
on.
beat Johnny Carson just one time.
Yeah. So you do have that kind of going on. I think as far as like, is this, we talk about kind of other, exorcism movies, possession movies that really surprise us, that really kind of just really knock things out of the park as far as what they did. Like something like Talk to Me. Is it on something like that level for me? No, not really. There you do have kind of the very, very conventional setups here of this and the way it kind of works of the devil and the possession stuff, the cult stuff, the occult kind of aspect here. But I think it is sold by the way that is done, the whole commitment to the look, the commitment by the actors here, really good performances. The sound, as Dust mentioned before, is also really good. The ending, I think, is really good here as well. It's one of those, good what the fuck horror endings that you'll have in something. So yeah, for me, I would give it a strong tune in for
Mhm.
me.
Okay.
So yeah, Mike gave it a stream it, and Dust gave it a high stream it there.
And if you can't see it, I'd see it in theaters while you can because it's coming to Shudder April 19th.